Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Tea Break Club podcast. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you've got a cup of tea because today we're going to be talking about my song, On Paper. On Paper was the second song from my project, album, series, whatever you want to call it, A Song in 7 Days. And A Song in 7 Days to me was like, it was a big step because it was the first stuff that I was doing on my own, totally on my own. Now, I know what you're thinking. Obviously, I've created demos on my own. I've done gigs on my own. I've sat with an acoustic guitar and recorded that kind of stuff, played on the piano, sang at the same time. But when it comes to original stuff, this felt like a bit of a dive into the deep end for me, A Song in 7 Days. And I had the idea, I think, just before Christmas. And I thought, I'm going to try this. I'm going to couple it in with a vlog. And you can still watch the vlog. You can watch the episode behind On Paper. It's called 1,000 Times a Day. And I will link it in the description. And that has got some of the story. And I'll talk about that as well in this episode, about how I wrote the song and how it came to be. But there is a full vlog that accompanies this song, just like all the other songs on A Song in 7 Days. But I had this idea that I was going to obviously give myself this time frame to write songs in 7 days. And the main purpose of that was to overcome the perfectionism associated with songwriting. Because the previous year, 2017, was the year that I released Here of All Places with The Usual Ones. And that was the first full album that I'd released, I could be wrong here, I think I'm right about this, since Wasting a Summer in 2012. And I'd done little EPs and collections of songs and a lot of instrumental music and working with other people, but I hadn't actually put out an album of my own songs in a very, very long time. So that obviously came together, and I think we actually started working on Here of All Places in about 2014. Some of those early demos, I remember being in the studio with ABC, working on early versions of those songs. And it took us so long to put that together. Basically, all of 2017 up until when we released it in the August. In fact, we released Everywhere, the first single from that, in June, I believe, possibly even May. But all of that year, the preceding year, was about getting that album together. But anyway, I digress. That took a long time, basically. And I had this idea that I was going to write these songs in 7 days, including the vlog and all the process behind it, the mixing, the mastering and the release. And the project did evolve over the year, and I'm sure we'll talk more in future podcasts about some of those other songs. But this was the second song from that project. And to be honest with you, putting that stuff out in January, particularly with New Year Still Me, it was terrifying to me because I'd done all this stuff with other people, and I think other people and working with other people is a great barrier in music. You're kind of bolstered by their confidence, and you can sit there and go, this is okay, isn't it? And they go, yes, it is okay. I think my bit's okay. I think your bit's okay. We'll be okay. And you kind of assure each other. And I think when you're totally on your own, and I mean, like, I think I played the drums on this track. No, I didn't. I played the drums on the first track, and I was like, is that all right? Don't know. Okay, let's just go with it. Let's just see what happens. And in many ways, this song was a big confidence booster for me, because I think the reception I got from releasing it at first from my friends and the people who were listening to it were like, Geoff, this is good. And I was like, oh, right, okay, cool. That's lovely to hear. And I still every now and then look back on the comments on the original video of this, and it's lovely to see. And I personally sort of acknowledge this as being probably the best song of mine, in my opinion, on the record, on A Song in 7 Days. And there's a lot of different stuff on there. And I think this song stands out because the lyrics and the content and the song itself are just, I don't know, there's something about this song. And maybe we'll uncover that today when we talk about it. But let's talk about the idea behind it. What gave me the idea for On Paper? And the answer to that question is, it was my experience of using dating apps at the time. and scrolling through these applications and seeing little glimpses of people's lives and potential futures, and exploring that idea and the fact that people would kind of come and go, and you go, oh, okay, yeah, I could see myself with that person, and then you'd never interact with them again. Just as quickly as their profile would appear, they wouldn't like you back, and you'd never see them again. And I wanted to kind of put that into a lyric, and I released it on Valentine's Day. So On Paper is definitely a love song. It's definitely a song about love and the experience of modern romance. And I also was really heavily influenced by the Sylvia Plath poem, The Bell Jar, the extract of which appears in the episode of Master of None, where he talks about lots of possible futures branching out in front of him. And that really is what On Paper is about. That's what the content of it is about. But because it was a classic love song, I thought, right, I am going to build this out of the 80s style building blocks that I personally love, from the influence of Genesis and Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel, my heroes, my prog heroes, if you like. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to build this song and use those things to make it sound like a song from that era, a bit anachronistic. And the main thing that allowed me to piece that together was the Yamaha DX7 synthesizer. Luckily, a few years ago, I was given one by my piano teacher. He said, Geoff, do you want this? I've got no use for it anymore. And at the time, I didn't immediately like it because it wasn't a Juno. You know, it wasn't going to be this incredible synth that was going to change my life. However, I dug it out for this and I plugged it in, and some of the sounds that I got on this are the things that really made it what it is. So without further ado, let's dive into the project. The first thing that makes up this song, that kind of contributes to its production magic, if you like, is it's not actually a synthesizer sound, but it's a sound that was present in a lot of Here of All Places as well. And it's actually a Vox Continental organ sound, but it's got a lot of delay pedals and reverb on it. I was going to say reverb then, which, you know, if you said reverberation, technically it would be short for that. But anyway, yeah, reverb. It's got a lot of reverb and delay on it, and it's quite a mysterious sound. And you can hear it on songs like Citizen of Nowhere. It's on there. And it's on Pristine Lawns. So a couple of listening points on that album if you want to hear where it's being used there. And when you hear it, you go, okay, that's what it is. Now, this is what it sounds like. Now that I've played that, you can probably hear the organ elements to it.
1,000 times a day, I see.
Just take the vocal out. And you can hear there's like it's very ethereal. It fills the space really nicely. And I sort of fade that in at the beginning of the song. And that sort of sets the tone of where we're going with it. And obviously after this, the piano kicks in. Really big, spacious chords. I knew when I was writing this that I wanted it to have that kind of Adele when we were young kind of vibe to it. Something that would really hang there over those chords. I just knew straight away that was going to be the basis of it, that it was going to feel really airy. And I guess some of these elements, actually, the things that make it sound a bit more modern, that and the way that I recorded the vocal, those two things in particular, if I play that again when it kicks in. Take that up a bit. It's quite a modern playing style, you know. Big chords there that kind of come in. And on the chorus, really spacious, just the piano and this extra synth sound, which isn't the DX7 yet. It isn't the DX7 yet, but this is like a lead sound. It's quite crunchy, and it's a nice little repeating ostinato pattern, which I think musically really lifts those simple, spacious chords. It sounds like this. Sounds quite jolly on its own, doesn't it? Let's put that back together with the organ sound and the piano, and you'll hear what that does. It carries on into the chorus here with just a simple bum, 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 bum. Root 5th octave. Just a little pattern there. And instantly to me, you know, before you've even got the subject matter of your lyrics, which we'll put back in a second, that's it feels emotional to me, that as a moment in this song. And I think this song is almost like it's kind of dialed up as we go along here. It gets heavier, and you get that content there. I mean, like, you can feel the song building as it goes along, and there are more elements in it. So I mean, like, let's listen to the chorus now with the vocal in there as well.
Just my type on paper. It's all so clearly written there. All the things you are in order. Perfect little life laid bare. I steal a glance and you are gone. I'm left alone to carry on. You're just my type on paper, and no other will compare.
See, with that, the lyric is definitely adding some emotion in there, but it's very sparse. Again, the vocals don't have a load of reverb on them. They're quite present. It's like my voice is like right there in the middle of the mix, and I think that's because I wanted the words to be really sort of front and center as well. I wanted it to be about the lyrics, and I think there's something about that, about making the vocals really dry, and I wanted to do that with a lot of earlier production, and particularly when I was really starting to think about lyrics. I know in the first episode when I was talking to my dad about the album, the self-titled album Geoff, and about the journey I went on with writing lyrics. And this is one of the first songs that I felt like I was really starting to appreciate how rhyme can help you so much to bring out those key things, and making sure that if it doesn't quite make sense, if the rhyme isn't very good, that you can swap the words out and make those changes. As we go into the second verse, this is where we start to get some of the synth sounds. We're still not into DX7 territory yet, but that kicks in very soon. The first thing we add in here is the drums, which are, I think it's like 808 stuff actually. Let's have a listen. Yeah. Again, very dry, very sparse. And if we put that in with the organ sound that we know, and of course the piano is there as well. Piano just starts to move a bit more here if you listen. That's because it's looping. Let's play that again. So even though the drums aren't really, you know, we've got some simple beats going on there, those quarter notes are coming from the piano. And for the first time in the verse, we have this sub bass that defines where we are. Suddenly we get this low F come in, and we go, oh, right, okay, cool, that's where we are, that's the chords that we're playing. So that kind of follows it along here. And there you go, that's where that definition comes from. And here's the point where the DX7 kicks in. Oh no, it's going to loop round. I got all that anticipation, I didn't do it. Okay, here we go. Here is where the DX7 kicks in, he said again. So, let's break that down. All the elements that we've already talked about, those supplementary elements like the synthesizer, are still there, but we're adding even more to it. I think there's part of me with the overtracking in this, I get a bit excited and I go, right, how much can I add to this, until eventually it's just this, massive wall of sound, to the point where you have to actually break down the mix to work out what's in it. And I think when I remixed a lot of this for the Song in 7 Days CD, I actually went back and went, oh, hang on, can I make that stand out a little bit? So let's see if I actually have done that. We've got the organ, we've got the piano, we've got the sub bass. These things are in together. This is no DX7 at all, so this is without. Now, the two DX7 parts, there's the bass. This is the DX7 bass, which is, as far as I know, a massive part of the Genesis album, Invisible Touch. And I love that album. And there's a song called Anything She Does, which has got this sound. This is what it sounds like. Just very punchy. And it follows the bass line. It's very simple. Just that B flat and a C. And it goes into the chorus there, right? But you can feel there's a real age to that synthesizer. It's very dated, but it's very punchy, isn't it? It really cuts through in the mix. Now, on top of that, we have this is the real magic. This is the DX7 at its finest, and you'll hear the tremendous amount of hiss that you get recording these synthesizers, and that's kind of the life of this track at this point as well. But listen to this. Oh. And into the chorus. And there we go. That is very much the magic of that. And if we hear that all together now, you can hear how it gels. Okay, another key moment coming up here. And this is the entry of the backing vocals. Now, the backing vocals, I do have a fun fact for you. I don't know if I actually said this in the episode of A Song in 7 Days, but I just bought the Warm Audio U47 FET version, the vocal microphone of choice of me and everything I make for the last 4 years. And I'd got it the month before. I used it on New Year's Still Me, and I wasn't quite used to using it properly. And I actually recorded all the backing vocals on this song into the back of the microphone by mistake. And it didn't seem to matter. Obviously, it's not a great idea. I wouldn't recommend it. But it did, in a strange way, separate the backing vocals from the main vocals on this. Now, I can see in front of me that on these backing vocals, there are 20 tracks of overtracking. And you'll hear as I start playing this that actually you can hear me. You can hear my mouth clicking. I kind of go I go ah, and then go like that because I just haven't edited it very well. So when you isolate it, it sounds like this, and this is absolutely drenched in reverb. It's compressed. This is the point where the 80s vibe really cements itself. You go, right, okay, I know what Geoff's doing here. He's doing something very anachronistic. He clearly loves Genesis, and this is what he's putting in the song. So this is the backing vocal part for the chorus, the second chorus of On Paper. So have a listen to this. Hear that click? As you can hear there. Oh, about to go into the next bit, which is a whoa bit. And you can hear, if you play that chorus all together now with everything That's got the DX7 bass plugging through, that really nice punchy sound. You've got the strings, you've got the same ostinato repeating pattern in the slightly broken, crunchy synth. You've got the organ sound ringing out over the top of it. In full, what part is that? I didn't realise I got that. It sounds like this. Just like the intro. So that isn't in the first chorus. There we go. And the piano's a bit heavier there, isn't it? Let's bring the backing vocals in. And the drums. And then we move into the middle eight of the song, which I think the vocals on this are a bit more distorted as well.
I took a chance to find romance, and now I'm hooked on you. And if you go, then I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
There's another track on there. Let's see what that does.
I took a chance
there we go.
to find romance, and now I'm hooked on you.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
And if you go, then I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
You can hear that's massively distorted, double tracked, and obviously I'm obsessed with automatic double tracking. It's present in pretty much every recording I make. It's such a cool sound, and weirdly it doesn't seem to matter whether I'm doing an 80s style track, whether I'm doing acoustic guitar on my own. It always seems to make it in. It's a technique that I just love, and I think it's the Waves relay DT that I was using on that actually. But you can hear there's distortion, there's a bit of width in there. But if you listen to this as we go into this section, there is actually a part here. Changes. Now, I was really lucky the year before this to spend, well, 2 years before this actually, leading up to this, to spend a lot of time working with the a cappella sensation Out of the Blue from Oxford. And I was their mixing engineer, their live mixing engineer for 2 years. And I worked with 2 iterations of the group because they rotate every year. And work with, I think in total, let's for the safe bet, there was 13 people in the group each year. Let's say, even though some people say long, let's say it's 26 of the most talented singers and musicians I've worked with in my life. It's possibly even more than 26. Every single person in that group was amazing at what they did. And I learned so much about not only recording vocals, but performing vocals and about vowel sounds. And I could name names and I could go through and do it, but it feels so unfair to do that because every single person in that group was amazing. And I was mixing this stuff on tours and in places up and down the country, and I was getting used to what vocals would do. And I think there's a lot of Out of the Blue influence on this in particular. But not only that, but being surrounded by musicians like that and playing some of these songs to them, they gave me a lot of confidence to do this kind of stuff. So it's only fitting that there's a tribute to them embedded in the backing vocals of these songs. And every song that I made after this, and I'm sure as we delve into more songs from A Song in 7 Days, you'll start to hear that. But that section there, you can hear there's a moving bass part. And I haven't got a particularly low voice, but I found the lowest part of my voice, and it's sort of cemented by what's going on with everything else. But if we take the let's take the lead vocals out of this and just play this section on its own. And there you go, that R sound is just, and how you change between those things. I just never would have thought to do that before working with Out of the Blue. It really inspired me to think about that because obviously when you're doing a cappella stuff, you've got to think about, you can't just go R all the time, as tempting as that is because it's very nice and easy to sing. But you've got to have a bit of variation in that. And obviously what they did was a lot more creative than that because they were creating sounds that were more nasal to sound a bit like a guitar and plucking sounds to sound like a double bass. Some really remarkable stuff. In fact, if you haven't listened to their back catalogue, Oxford Out of the Blue, give it a listen on Spotify, because there's some real magic in there, and the fact that they can create full tracks with just the voices was always amazing to me. And trying to mix that stuff, you always had to get your creative head on to do that. But I carried that forward into a lot of what I did with my writing and my production. Oh, electric guitar part. This is I talked about this in a previous episode. I can't remember which one it was, but it might have been actually talking about this song and its acoustic version that I did, the stripped back version. But there is some electric guitar. Let's see what it sounds like. Played with about 3% effort by the sound of it, but that's obviously quite a thick sounding part anyway, and it just sort of matches the bass line. And here we move into the final chorus, which is up a minor third. Nice bit of chord mixture. So we're using a kind of a diminished 7 turnaround for anyone who's interested to get ourselves to A flat. But the interesting thing about this, and I have to kind of sit at the piano sometimes and remind myself how to actually play this, but because we go to an A flat in first inversion, it all kind of revolves around the note C. So there's a point where we use E flat in first inversion as the shifting point, as the pivot chord, but that is then quickly followed up by A flat in first inversion. You've got the C and the bass to go up to the D flat, because that is what the chorus is based on. It's based on chord 1 in first inversion and 4, and then 6 and 5 respectively in your Roman numerals. So this point here, that's how we're able to kind of get there. But if we listen to the piano part and the and just on its own, that's how we get there. And there are, I think, as far as I know, there's one point where this G comes in on the sub bass, but everything else is blank. There you go. It's quite an interesting jump, that, isn't it? Because it's from G to C, which they are notes that are in F major, which is where we were originally. Which is why I think of all the key changes that I've written, this is probably one of the more satisfying, but probably the least jarring. And it does lift us to a totally new place. Other than that, every part that is played is the same. The backing vocals kick in A flat. And you can hear that it's the same parts, but up 3. And the guitar joins in. But it doesn't need anything else. We've already built this so much that we can just add these parts in. We've changed to a totally new key. We've changed up a minor third. Suddenly, we're in A flat. The chorus is the same. The lyrics are the same. It's lifted enough by what's going on musically to not alter the production, apart from adding a guitar, obviously. But I'm fairly sure the thing that gives it the energy is not me playing a couple of bass parts on the guitar. So when this kicks in, this is with everything. This is with the main vocals as well.
Are in order, a perfect little life laid bare, and I steal a glance at you are gone.
Ooh.
I'm left alone to carry on. It just might take.
So there's actually a vocal that I never used in that. Here we go. This is a. Never actually used that in the end. That was muted for a reason. But I didn't even need to do that. I didn't even need to add that in to give it that power.
I steal a glance at you are gone.
Now, this is one thing that is different as I go into the repeat of the chorus. As the chorus eats itself, as my friend Seb would say, you say it all the time, the chorus eats itself on this one, lads. And that is what has happened here. We just go straight back to the beginning, okay? So we've got this little ending here, which is the final lyric, the spin the wheel and watch it land, love's a game, but were you dealt an even hand? And under that, I wonder if anyone's ever noticed this before, but the backing vocals actually sing the words on... It says paper on paper. So this is the backing vocal part layered on top of the R's at the end.
Paper on paper.
Which is weird. It's like a bit of subliminal advertising for the title of the song. It's almost like, right, you've got to the end. Make sure you listen to it again. So there we go. We've got paper on paper. And it's not particularly loud in the mix. It's not got the same reverb on it. It's double tracked. It's like, there's like 6 parts there and then automatic double tracking on it as well. So let's call it at least 12 with this main backing vocal part, which is... Let's put that in as well. It's weird. I don't know why I use that part of my voice with the backing vocals. It's not something that ever really comes into my lead vocals singing, but there you go. I don't think I've ever said paper like that in my life, but there you go. It's so heavily embedded in the track that you wouldn't even notice. But that final bit with spin the wheel and watch it land. Here you go.
Don't you lose your grip. Be careful you don't fall. No, please don't fall.
And this is where the song kind of just, it dies out at the end and things go off. The organ stops on Just Don't Lose Your Grip. And then the piano does as well after that. Then the bass. And the thing that it's left with is the DX7 string sound. It's the first time we really hear it exposed on its own. And the drums stop as well. And I know where John Peel used to say it, didn't he? This one fades out. And I've always tried to resist that with songs. There's a handful of songs where I have done it. Girl Next Door on Wasting a Summer, I faded out. But I try my best not to fade things out because you think, how would I play this live? And obviously, to play this live, I'd need a choir of people, 3 synth players, and a drummer, a guitarist to play the odd note. Maybe I could do that as I sang. But, you know, you're starting to build up quite a band to actually perform this song. So maybe I was thinking about it in the wrong way anyway. But I didn't want it to fade out. I wanted it to kind of sort of disappear piece by piece, and you're left with this I think it's actually a little mistake, and I go do 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 on the synth part. Bit Stranger Things that actually, isn't it? And that kind of lingers on the end, and I quite like it actually.
Fall. No, please don't fall.
And that's the thing that you're left with, and that is how On Paper ends. And that essentially is kind of what it is. It's the whole song builds up. It's got all these different pieces, and then you lose it a little bit in the middle 8. It kind of goes back to the intro and its core parts. And then at the end, it just fades off as it is, and you're kind of left with those last few lyrics. Be careful you don't fall. No, please don't fall. And yeah, I must admit, this to me ticked all of my production boxes at the time in terms of getting everything in. And we talk about Mondays being very simple. It was easy to talk about that song because, you know, you got 2 electric guitar parts, a bass part, a drum part, and no backing vocals at all. This is production to the max for me, really. There's so much stuff in this. And I think that's what makes the song what it is. And yeah, I think I was talking earlier about how this song allowed me to kind of come out of my shell a bit and have the confidence to create my own music. And I really loved how it was received. And I'd be really interested to hear if you like this song too. And you can listen to it on A Song in 7 Days, both on the CD and, of course, it's on all your favourite streaming platforms. You'll find it on my artist profile. Second song on A Song in 7 Days, On Paper. But there's something about maybe hiding behind the production in this. There's maybe, okay, it is just me, but there's also me with 10 million synths, 2 bass parts, etc. There's a lot of stuff to give me that confidence to do this, and the backing vocals being layered up with that out of the blue influence in it. It's a simple song in its composition. The chords are familiar. It's the sort of thing, in fact, I have done an acoustic guitar version of this, an electric guitar version of this. It was snowing. I remember the day quite well. I think it was snowing in possibly like February or March of 2018. And the version is on YouTube of me playing this. And I was able to play it with just an electric guitar. And there is a version of it with just the piano on the self-titled album. But at the time, maybe I was like, right, no, let's layer this up. Let's do these things and make it into the song that it is. But that is, in a nutshell, the breakdown of On Paper. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to this. I know I'm still experimenting with the format of this podcast, and I am going to have some more guests on. I am going to start talking to more people about the music that they love and the music that we love together and the things that we've done together with music. But I am going to break down more of these songs. And if there's a particular song that you'd like to hear on the podcast, me talk about, then let me know. Leave a comment. Send me a message. I love to hear from you. I love to hear from everyone when it comes to my music and the things that I'm creating. And if there's something in particular that you want me to do on the podcast, let me know as well. But in the meantime, thank you very much for listening. And as always, I'll see you on our next tea break.